What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of WB Content. And today we are about to talk about Dark Side of the Ring, Season 7, Episode 4, about Samoa Joe and Necro Butcher 2005 match that was held at the legendary ECW Arena in Philadelphia, where, of course, the most craziest intense match I think I've ever seen thus far of a wrestling company. No, I'm sorry, not a wrestling company, an independent wrestling promotion. Like, I have seen a bunch of independent wrestling scenes. I've seen some on YouTube. I've seen some in documentaries thus far, especially from the 90s about ECW, the hardcore punk rock situation, and how, it was all crazy, no holds bar situations, and how it was, you had your typical ladder matches, your tables and stuff, people going from high flying jumps from the balconies and stuff. And then on top of that, you had the famous barbed wire matches, especially the signature barbed wire baseball bat where they swing and there's blood everywhere. But this, Samoa Joe and Necro Butcher, these two guys, famous from their own wrestling backgrounds. I mean, Samoa Joe went from independent to going to one of the biggest wrestling names in the company to Necro Butcher, a hardcore legend next to Sandman, next to Tommy Dreamer, next to the Dudley Brothers. This man is like a hardcore legend times 20. And seeing that episode, it wasn't just about a match. It was never about a match. It was about like a legacy, something you leave behind and people can remember for the rest of their lives. But the dark side behind it was just so mind-boggling to me, like how some failed moves became like most entertaining things you could ever see. Then it went from a standard pinfall submission match to a freaking MMA brawl fight where they had a freaking barricade gate involved and had a table involved, and how they landed smacked hard on the cement. What's awesome to me is that these two guys are alive and healthy and they're still talking about it to this day. It's been like what, 11, 12, maybe what, 20 something years, and people are still talking about it to this day. Watching the episode, me and my mom, we were watching it and I was completely stunned. From the first second, I'm like, holy shit, what the heck is happening? And then it got to the point where they were like, all the guys who were there, everybody who was involved, they rewatched and they're like, holy shit, can believe that happened. That guy's still standing up. This guy's not giving up. Like, this guy is a freaking mastermind. Like, everything, all of that. Like, the two wrestlers who were involved, the referee who was involved, the wrestler's best friend, the commentators, like, everybody in the episode was involved and they have their side to tell. And it was just incredible. Like, the whole episode, the images, the actual ring footage of what happened in that match was so incredible. My jaw, I think, dropped 4 or 5 times. It probably dropped 4 or 5 times when I saw that match. But I heard more about Necro Butcher's story and how, being bullied as a kid, and the one thing that he loved to do on the weekends was watching wrestling with his father. But then it got to where he got dark and talked about how his father passed away in a house fire, and how the one thing that made him and his dad have a bond was wrestling, and from that point on he still watched it, and then he became a wrestler. But not the typical wrestler you would think, not the typical, AEW, WWE guy, NXT guy, the gimmick, the laughs, the funny colors or whatever, none of that. He was known in hardcore wrestling, like I think death matches. He had death matches. For all you hardcore fans out there, for all you independent wrestlers out there, I tip my hat off to you because I've seen wrestlers like that, and these guys are freaking nuts. They do matches with barbed wire, with thumbtacks, with staples, with staple guns, with pizza cutters, with those light bulbs you see in buildings and stuff. Like, they use those. They use actual glass. They literally bleed from their own body, and better yet, they have a quick staple in their arm, take it out, they patch everything up, and they go on to the next match. I'm like, what the hell? With Necro Butcher, this guy, he does extreme, but he does extreme times 20. And I'm like, I'm looking into the match, and I'm hearing the interviews, and I'm seeing what the heck they did. And to them, wrestling is not just, knowing the moves, cutting a good promo, and giving the people, what they want. In wrestling like that, they tell a story. From You see a wrestler cry, you feel their pain. When you see a wrestler bleed, you feel that from your body. When you see them, taking a hit, taking a bump, whatever the case was, you feel that all over your body, like chills down your spine. That match, it was more than a match. It was a story saying that a champion like Samoa Joe can take on a hardcore legend like Necro Butcher. That a hardcore legend like Necro Butcher could take on a fight like that and still get up, still fight with the heart on his sleeve, and he can still fight with blood all over his face. Like, watching that whole episode, I was shocked. I almost cried. I was just so memorized by everything that they did, and how they talk about the independent wrestling scene, how guys like Samoa Joe, they made it in the big leagues, and how independent wrestlers can like be proud of him and congratulate him because he started from the ground, he started from the bottom, and he worked his way to the top of the freaking industry, both in three: NXT, WWE, and AEW, and he's still doing it to this day. What's awesome to me is that guys like him, they have a long road to go to get to the bigger companies. But guys like Necro Butcher, they don't care about being in Madison Square Garden. They don't care about traveling the world and wrestling in 20 different countries. All they care about is putting on a show and making the people feel what they feel. And what got me choked up a little bit was when Necro Butcher said, "I need to go to Madison Square Garden to have a great match." That to me was my Madison Square Garden. And he loved the fact that to this day, people are still talking about it. It's all over social media, it's all over Twitter, it's all over the wrestling industry, from talking about the hardcore legends. And I was telling my mom that if Necro Butcher was in ECW in the 90s, oh my god, he would have been a hardcore legend in ECW next to Sandman and all the other top wrestlers in that company. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, wow, these matches, these people who went through so much shit got to be a part of the biggest thing that ever happened in their life. And when it comes to wrestling, it's not just about the moves. It's not just about the promos. It's not just about a character. It's about telling a story. And that story could live on for the rest of their lives. And a guy like Necro Butcher, he went through hell and back, and he's still kicking it. This guy survived a match, he survived injuries, he survived cancer. A hardcore legend like that beat cancer, and the next day he still wrestles. Props to him. And like I said, I tip my hat off to Necro Butcher and Samoa Joe for pulling off, I think, one of the coolest matches I've ever seen. Honestly, after seeing that, I feel like the mask versus mask of A Grande Americanos. I mean, that match was badass. But I'm sorry, I feel like that one, independent wrestling like that, I don't know, man. I feel like that could be the number one spot in my book for like the best matches ever seen. Even though I wasn't alive at the time I saw it, but thanks to Dark Side of the Ring and thanks to YouTube, I saw the full match and I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible! Like I can't believe I never saw this before. I can't believe that Like what, the past 2 years I've been a wrestling fan, I've never seen that match. No one's ever talked about it. And now I got to see it. And I'm happy I did because that match. And to me, it's that look, WWE, AEW, big companies like that, they put on good shows. But the magic behind an independent wrestling show, like, you do not live on TV. You can't watch it on YouTube the day after because it takes a while to post on the internet. You have to see it for yourself, live, in front of 20, 30 people. You see it live. You see the adrenaline. You see the fear. You see all the emotions. You see that in a wrestler like that, trying to make it big in the business, trying to make their name. And at that night, Necro Butcher made a name for himself, and he pushed a star like Samoa Joe. That match solidified him that he can handle anybody and anything, which of course led to him going to NXT and being the main top guy. Him going to WWE, becoming the world champion, going through so much crap with all the wrestlers, to him going to their rival company AEW and still being a champion. That right there shows you hard work pays off. And seeing that, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Dark Side of the Ring, they tell you so much. But they tell you more that it's more than just a match. It's more than just a promo. It's more than just about a wrestler. It's about their life, their legacy, everything that they left in that squared rink. They left it in there for us to see. And us fans, we talk about that for years and years and years to come. So I highly recommend watch Samoa Joe and Necro Butcher. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, so watch that. It's a pretty badass match. It's pretty awesome. Now, for next week, they will be talking about a old WWF wrestler from the 90s. His gimmick was a cop, although I don't know what they're gonna portray him. Like, to be fair, I don't know the guy's name. I don't know what he did, but I did vaguely remember them talking about the hanging scene of when he got hanged from the ceiling, and it was like a self suicide thing. I don't. To be fair, I don't know, but we're gonna find out next week about him, about the cop gimmick, his life as a wrestler, him being on the road, the legacy he left behind, and I'm really excited to see that because it's gonna be pretty interesting to see. Um, that's all I got for today. Next week sorry, this Saturday we will have a triple AF Renault de Escalada, 3 week televised event. Crazy match coming up. SummerSlam happening in about 2 weeks, I think, a week. Although I'm not too happy about the storyline thus far, but we'll get into that later. We'll get to that at another time. But yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to you guys soon.